Hello, you beautiful creatures, and welcome to another episode of League Unlocked. My name's Eric. We thank you for hanging out and joining us in our humble digs here on the show. And as we continue to wade through the off-season before 2020 spring, we know that you saw North America importing tons of players ahead of 2020, and everyone is upset because they're not grooming that domestic talent, and people have been upset about playoff formats for years in not just the LCS, but really League of Legends as an esport entirely. And then Riot comes in for the LCS in 2020 and say, we're going with sweeping changes across the board. They announced that for 2020 spring, not only did they announce when it was starting on the 25th, but a whole bunch of changes to not only the playoff format, the scheduling, and how we're going to qualify for the World Championship in 2020. And these all come into effect. They're not waiting until summer. They come right in for spring. We're still waiting for any update on the fantasy side of things. No fantasy LCS that we'll be seeing. They promised spring, but probably not going to happen. But they did come up with four big changes coming into this year, and a lot of it is modeled off of what you get in the NFL. And I thought we were beyond the times of modeling off traditional sports, because esports is completely different than what you would see out of the NFL, the NBA, the NHL. But 2 LCS matches per week are going to be on a Monday night. Monday night, which it's starting around 7. I think the last match is going to be 8:30 Pacific time. That's like 11:30 in the Eastern time zone. And if you're in EU, it's something like 3:30 in the morning. So maybe that's not going to be terrific viewership times for people that are interested in that. But obviously, these are going to be marquee events that are the big rivalries. But no, it's not just going to be TSM versus Team Liquid every time, because they only play twice, but they already released the schedule for the first 4 weeks. And those first 4 Monday games, you've got EG versus 100 Thieves, TSM versus Team Liquid. You have to have that one on the docket. FlyQuest versus Dignitas, TSM versus CLG, Team Liquid versus Golden Guardians, CLG versus Immortals, FlyQuest versus 100 Thieves, and then Evil Geniuses versus Cloud9. So I like the fact that it's not just going to be one of the TSM games from the week or one of the Team Liquid games from the week will be played on Monday. You've got to give every team the opportunity to play in some of these games, because I fully expect this to be more of a prime time feeling. It's like the Sunday or Monday nighter in the NFL, if you watch football here in North America, where all eyes are on that. The other players are watching these games. You're not able to jump through all these other matchups or pop in, I want to watch the third game of the day. I'm just going to watch that one and ignore the others. These are going to be the only ones going on at that time, and they're not competing with any other leagues, of course. So these are where guys can really make statements, either rookies or teams that, if you come with a big upset on the Monday night game, it's going to be very exciting for them. And Riot also announced that there probably won't be actual tickets for sale. They're only going to do these special events where they'll invite high schoolers or college students to come in and watch those games. So I'm excited for the Monday night ones, even though the timing is terrible for most people outside of California. The other changes, the big ones, are to the playoff formats in both spring and summer. We finally are getting a losers bracket, and they get a little bit complicated, or at least a lot more complicated than what we saw in the previous years in the LCS. The spring playoff one, and yes, they are different between spring and summer, but spring is pretty much the exact same as what you got from the LEC here in 2019, where the top 2 seeds get a bye to the semifinals. They play each other right away. The loser goes down to the losers bracket, where they have a chance to get back to the grand finals. So it's again a case of you can lose a best of 5 and still win the entire tournament. And we saw how fantastic this was for storylines when G2 and Fnatic played 2 incredible best of 5s, where you had the G2 reverse sweep and then they won again against Fnatic. So that just makes the storylines even more interesting, and you're going to get more games. The playoff series will be going even longer. So that is a welcome change, absolutely, heading into this year. For summer, though, gets even more complicated. It's more complex than the LEC. You can see there's just more borders going on, more boxes. It's 8 teams that will be going into the summer playoffs. So only 2 teams are not qualifying, and it gets a lot more complicated because this is how you're going to qualify for the World Championship. And this tournament, this bracket alone, it's a similar theme where you have the first and second seeds getting a bye, and then they're picking from winners of the other the quarterfinal matchup. They're not even really quarterfinals, but you also have this entire extended losers bracket where the 7th and 8th place teams from summer are going to be playing. So yes, you could have an 8th place team who is going to be way sub 500, 5-13, something like that, that could make an entire run through, and then it is the top 3 teams from that bracket will qualify for the World Championship, which, yes, means championship points entirely are done. Dunzo, the spring split, all that it means is the winner is going to the midseason invitational. The other 9 teams, it's irrelevant unless you are, well, developing or learning things more from that spring split, which means we will be avoiding what people didn't like with 100 Thieves in 2018, where they got to go as the 2nd seed to Worlds when they were definitely not the 2nd best team heading into summer. Everybody wanted TSM or maybe even somebody else. So now you're going to avoid that by not having these points carry over from the spring split. But I kind of liked that you were able to reward teams who were consistent for the entire year, even if they weren't necessarily at their peak in the summer split, which is obviously the meta right before Worlds. And now the regional gauntlet is not a thing either. You're not going to have these dream runs from Cloud9 going from 10th place to the World Championship. But as we mentioned when we looked at the format for summer, you could have an 8th place team completing a pretty miracle run through the entire event. And what's interesting about these summer playoffs is really only the top teams are going to be rewarded by being able to lose a best of 5, right? The 7th or 8th place team, you lose that first best of 5 and you're cooked. You're out of there. You're not going to the World Championship. But this does make way that you could have a 5-13 or 4-14 team somehow get things together, rally off, 3 best of 5s all of a sudden and lose in that losers final, and all of a sudden they're going to the World Championship. So I don't know exactly what to make of it. I wasn't a huge fan of championship points in general, but it is a little tough that spring is pretty much meaningless outside of MSI. The solution for me would be just expand MSI. Bring 2 teams from each region, make it a bigger tournament overall instead of just 6 in that main group stage. Give these teams a little bit more to play for, but of course you can't change the entire format just because that's how the LCS is going to be run in 2020. But big changes are coming, and for the most part, I'm excited about them.